Hello, everybody. Welcome to our today's event sponsored by the Diamantklub. We are talking about retreat, the benefits, and also the challenges. And with us today are two senior teachers of ACI, Lama Sarahni and Venerable Sumati. Both of them are long-term students of Geshe Michael Roach. When I'm correct, they started in the 90s studying with him. And since the early 2000s, they are already sharing their wisdom with other people. In 2014, they finished a 3-year retreat, a regular one, and they have been attending themselves a lots of retreats, and they have been guiding a lots of students in their retreats. So welcome everybody, welcome Lama Sarahni, welcome Venerable Sumati. So happy to have you here today. And welcome also all of our guests joining from all over the world. Thank you, dear translators. Thank you, Luisa and the tech team for supporting this event. We will have guests from Russia and the Ukraine. We have Spanish speaking. So if you need to change your channel, please do so now. There's the globe with the language on the bottom. And also, of course, we have German translation. I almost forgot my own language. So we will have 1 hour of lovely interview and talk. And our lovely teachers are going to share their wisdom and insights with us. And then you also will have the chance for about 30 minutes having a Q&A. So in case there's some questions that arise, please let us know in the chat. You can do so in your own language and we will translate it. And then I hope your answer or your question will be picked and you get a personal advice. And by this, I would like to invite Lama Sarahni and Venerable Sumati to introduce whatever I missed, and then we can start.
May I?
Please.
So thank you, everyone, for sharing your time with us and your interest in retreat. It warms our hearts tremendously to know that there are people that see value in taking themselves away from their ordinary life and seeing that you can actually achieve something by way of doing so. At least perhaps you think maybe that's possible. And I applaud you for being here to investigate that further and allowing us to do so. So before we begin, let's set a clear motivation. I think, as you know, the teachings that we've been shared and that we share come through the Mahayana Buddhist tradition. It does not mean that you have to become Buddhist to study them. But by Mahayana, we mean that a practitioner's interest in their own spiritual growth is directed towards being able to help others in some deep and ultimate way. We see that it's not enough to reach our own personal happiness. And yet we see that our own personal happiness is the outcome of our wish to bring others to that happiness as well. So even for this simple 1 hour discussion, think of someone you know who's hurting in some way. And think about what you know about how our world, our experiences, our reflections of how we've treated others in the past. And with that understanding, make the wish that you'll learn something in this today's session that you will be able to use to change yourself in such a way that you will help that other change themselves in such a way that they will be able to help others change themselves in such a way, right? I can't ever stop saying that. So something you hear in today's session will contribute to that process of your changing our world for all of us. So yay. Sumati, do you have anything to share before I go to the intro?
No, I think you've covered very nicely, dear.
Okay, thank you. So this session is about retreating. And historically, in Shakyamuni Buddha's time in India, in the summer months, they had monsoon season. And in monsoon season, because of the increased moisture, all kinds of creatures would emerge. And their lifestyle of going out to beg for food and then going back to then receive teachings and study and meditate would mean that the monks would kill a whole lot more beings during their daily excursions than they would be killing in the non-monsoon season. So Lord Buddha would take them all into retreat, into one small place, and they each had their little hut, apparently. And their job was to say their prayers and do their meditations and study and practice and not go outside, like go outside as minimally as possible so they wouldn't kill the bugs. So, you know, Lord Buddha had other things in mind, no doubt, because taking time to pull yourself out of your routine and focus on your study, your prayers, your practices without the distractions of ordinary life helps us see much more deeply into ourselves, into our beliefs about who and what we are. It gives us this opportunity for gaining deep insights into our wrong beliefs, and so deeper insights into the unmistaken beliefs we're cultivating. And then as a side benefit, even when we go into retreat and seclude ourselves intentionally, that period of time that we are in seclusion, we are not harming others in ways that we would otherwise have been, grossly and subtly, for that period of time that we've removed ourselves from ordinary life. So it seems like such a minor thing. But when we understand about imprints in karma and those imprints out, projections making my world, the level of harmfulness that we do on a daily basis colors what our world looks like later. The level of protecting others, avoiding harming others, colors what our world will look like in our future. So the very minimal benefit and motivation of taking oneself into retreat, a solitary retreat, is simply to spend some time at the minimal level of harming others as we can get. So from that perspective, then, we take in food that is as minimally harmful to others in its creation as possible. We do practices that help us clean out our past mental seeds of when we did grossly and subtly do harm. And we intentionally do prayers and practices to plant the seeds in our mind to allow us to be more harmless, to be more helpful in our world when we come out of retreat. And so retreating is not a running away from life or running away from our problems. It's an intentional taking those problems into a place where we can really focus on them, investigate them, apply our growing wisdom to them, and see if we can't shift this way that we interact with our outer world. The fact that we are being so much more harmless during retreat is a powerful goodness that grows our hearts to being able to be more and more harmless, more helpful in our what seems to be day-to-day life when we get out of retreat. If one's spiritual practice grows to the point where you have a sequence of going into retreat, coming out, going in, coming out, what evolves is not a sense of being in or out of retreat, but a sense of being focused outward when we're in our what used to be ordinary life, and focused inward when we're in our retreat life. And we see how those two evolve together to grow this transformation of our own self from ignorant human, I need my needs met, to the wisdom being that in your heart is trying to arise. So there are many different things one can do in a personal retreat. And there are things not to do in personal retreat. And the main thing not to do is to just decide, I'm going on retreat, and not have any idea what you're going to do while you're there. We want to go into this precious time of isolation well prepared, well trained, with some method of using our time in a highly virtuous way, a highly powerful way to change the seeds in our heart for the world that we see. Now, there are many different methods of doing that in retreat. In our tradition, our training of the Asian Classics Institute Foundation courses include like 7 practice modules that are meditation practices that are designed to bring us to certain realizations. There's one called The Source of All My Good, which is a review of the Lamrim, the steps on the path to total enlightenment. And it's a beautiful practice that one could use in a weekend retreat, in a 10-day retreat. Technically, it could be a lifetime practice. There's another one called The Thousand Angels of Bliss, which is using the preliminaries to meditation as a full practice. It has a visualization, it has prayers, it even has a mantra. And one can learn that practice and even use it to do the same thing in an open teaching retreat as one would do in a secret practice retreat. There's another that's called Death and the End of Death awareness practice, which also can be learned as a daily practice and used as a retreat practice. So another is the Heart Sutra, coming up soon. Another is the 6 Flavors of Emptiness, coming up later. And another is the 7-step cause and effect for reaching bodhicitta, that actually has 13 steps. And, you know, there are others that haven't been formally taught yet that one can learn from their teacher. When we learn one of those practice modules, you learn the meaning of the prayers, you learn the meaning of the practice, and then taking it into retreat, you would repeat that meditation at certain times of the day, at least 4 times a day. And in between, you study it. You can do some yoga or intentional exercise. You can contemplate, and then you go back and you do the same practice again. Years ago, when Sumati and I were first starting our retreats, there were other students who were starting their retreats as well. And I had this friend of ours knew that I had done a certain retreat a couple of times before, so he saw that I knew something about it. And he had started into his retreat on that topic already, and he wrote out a note. And his note said, "You mean I do this same thing every day for a month, 4 times a day?" And it's like, yes, same thing, 4 times a day for 30 days in a row, right? And he was like, he didn't get that going into retreat. And from my worldly perspective, when do we ever do the same thing 4 times a day for 30 days? It's like counter-human intuitive. And yet the benefit is that you go deeper and deeper and deeper into that practice. And in the process of that, you come to understand something about yourself that without that repetition, we would just stay superficial. So even in the open teaching retreats, same, we do it again and again and again and again. And the practice will reveal itself to you so that you can go deeper and deeper into its benefits. So then one would want to find a practice that they're attracted to. You know, it's one thing for the Lama to say, do this retreat, but I hate that retreat. You know, there might be a reason to do it anyway. But if we are self-assigning our like retreat career, find something that interests you, that warms your heart by doing it, that engages you. And we have all these different possibilities. It means learning them, trying them on for size, and then choosing the one you want to work with for some time, instead of jumping from one to the next to the next. That I admittedly force my students to do, right? ACI 4, ACI 5, ACI 6. But then once they have them all, the idea is go back and dig in to the one that fascinated you. So retreat is the opportunity to do that. So when we speak of personal retreat, you know, I admit I'm a retreat snob, because it's like to do anything less than a month-long retreat is like, you can't get deep, you can, right? I admit, but it's not true that a one-day retreat, right? Geshe calls it circle day. To just take a day where, to take a day where you say, I'm going to withdraw from ordinary life and I'm going to focus on my prayers and my study without distraction for 24 hours, to build that into our life. It helps us grow the interest and the impetus to doing longer retreat. And so the longer retreat might just be, you know, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then it might grow to a 10-day, you know, 2 weekends and the week in between. And then it might grow to a 2-week. And then depending on how we're using our behavior to plant seeds for future in between those times, maybe the opportunity for a month-long or 6 weeks or even 3 months might come along in life. When we first heard about retreat, actually, I'm thinking back, I first heard about month-long retreats in the mid-90s. And there was a monk that we knew, an American man who was a Tibetan monk. He went on a month-long retreat. And when he came out, you know, all the people in the Sangha that he was a part of, they were calling him Lama all of a sudden. And somebody said, yeah, once you've done a month-long retreat, you get the title Lama. And, you know, at the time, I didn't know enough to wonder about that. It's just, okay. And I was so in awe of somebody doing a month-long retreat. You know, we were still working. I had my own business, right? You didn't get vacation time when you own your own business. And so to think of taking a whole month off, it was like, that's impossible. So I really admired him for doing it. And then flash forward about 5 years or so, and we meet Geshe Michael, and he is saying, you know, we're here in Arizona because we're looking for a place to do a 3-year retreat. And it's like, 3 years? You gotta be nuts. But something in my heart said, I want to do that. Like I knew something about it. And then because Sumati and I lived in Tucson at the time, and they were looking at property for their great retreat that was about 2 hours south of Tucson, you know, Sumati said, well, I'm here in Tucson. If you need help with your 3-year retreat, just give us a call. And they did. A few months later, we do need your help, please. And we had the opportunity to go and help them build their yurts, and Sumati helped their water system work and their lightning rod system get put in and their septic methods get fixed so they could stay in retreat. We didn't know any better. We were just here. And so we helped. But in retrospect, man, the seeds we were planting, right, were seeds that would, within a few years, ripen as a place available for us to do our personal retreats. And my first one was on that property where Geshe Michael and the others were retreating. I took a 2-week isolated time, and it was my first baby solo retreat. And it was amongst the most powerful I've ever done. And I've done more than I can count at this point. It was dramatic in 2 short weeks. And then, you know, and then I was hooked on retreat. So personal retreat. But let me shift now to group retreat. My guess is you're more familiar with group retreat than solitary.
We can ask our audience actually to put a 0 in the chat if you have not done any, you know, retreat at all yet.
Okay.
You can put a S for single. I did a solo retreat already, and a G for group retreat. So we know who has done what. So there's single, people didn't do, some did both. Oh, there's many who didn't do a retreat
Lots
at
of
all.
zeros.
Yeah.
All right.
And then lots of mixed experiences between solo and group.
I see. Group.
Ah, nice.
Good. Thank you. That was a great idea, Joanna.
Yeah.
So Sumati, feel free to jump in anytime. I want to get rid of this.
So what was your experience? Was the personal, the solo retreat? What was the difference between them and the group retreats? And which were more beneficial for your daily life? Was there anything at all you felt differently?
Right. So, right, unmute and speak up, sweetie. Yes, no?
I think it's really important to to see retreat as a positive experience, a real chance to get into your practice. It's too often, I think, seen as an onerous task, and I have to do 3-year retreat. I have to do retreat of some kind, and if I don't, I'm a bad practitioner. That can convince you not to do retreat. Instead, see retreat as an incredible opportunity to really practice what you've been trying to learn. And you'd be surprised how much more you learn by doing retreat on a subject than just reading a book or listening to a teacher.
Nice. So our experience was that we started with group programs. We didn't call them retreat at that time, but we'd see something advertised and we'd go, and it would be isolated in the sense that all you did during that program was attend the program and meditate and eat and sleep. So it did technically qualify as what's being called retreat. One of the early ones that we did, actually the great teacher Thich Nhat Hanh was giving a teaching on, I don't even remember what the teaching was, but it was a long weekend or a 5 day, 6 day.
It was a 5 day.
5 days in Santa Barbara. So we traveled to it and they housed us and fed us. And we were going, to learn. And I think he was giving refuge. And so we got refuge. And they put us in this dormitory, and poor David was using the bathroom in this, what we thought was a co-ed dormitory, and this woman walks into the bathroom.
It was a co-ed dormitory.
Yeah. And this woman sees him in the restroom, and she just has this mental affliction meltdown, And it surprised us because we were at this retreat on our best behavior, wanting to learn, wanting to be good Buddhists, and our presence there sparked this huge mental affliction in this poor woman, and so we immediately, said, yeah, what's wrong with this picture? Get us someplace where we don't have that influence. And I think they moved us, not her. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that when we go on group retreat, its purpose is to teach us a new practice that we could use in our personal practice, either in daily life or in retreat. And we may have the expectation that everybody around us, is these perfect angels. And then we're like really surprised when anything goes wrong in a group retreat. We've been also on the edge of being helping to run a group retreat. And I can tell you, things always go wrong in group retreat because we have mental afflictions.
That's something I think that is easy to forget. A group retreat before we knew what we were doing at the Santa Barbara thing, we thought all those people were wrong, were doing things that didn't make any sense. Here we were earnestly trying to do what we thought was retreat. And years later, we realized they're all coming from us.
Right.
So what happens in group retreat for me is it brings everything to the surface to see just how well my practice has been. And if I go into a group retreat and immediately have, oh, this person's doing this or this person's doing that, whoops, they're not doing it. My seeds are starting to ripen yet again in ways that I'd hoped didn't have to worry about. Right. So there's that subtle, maybe not so subtle aspect of group retreat that's, I think, as important as anything you're going to learn from the teacher.
Right. Group retreat gives us a great opportunity to see deeper into our own mental afflictions as we interact with others. We learn a practice and we learn more about what about ourselves needs work. And that's a big advantage to group retreat because in solitary retreat, it's kind of easy to fool ourselves. Oh no, I'm not an angry person. Look, I can go 5 whole days without getting angry until I get out of retreat and the mess in the kitchen, right? So
What mess in the kitchen?
no, I don't mean that. I'm being as an example.
But that brings me to the interesting point of how to prepare for a retreat so that it can be this joyful experience, even though our mental afflictions are ripening, especially if we are in a group. But even if we are solo, there can be ripenings that make it hard for us to enjoy the experience.
Right.
So you already said that you have been serving a long time other people doing retreat, which planted already good seeds, obvious seeds. But maybe you want to dive a little deeper into what obvious and subtle seeds can we plant for all of our audience today who plan to do a retreat, because there are so many who haven't done one yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be lovely to give them something to, so this is how you can prepare. And then seeds will ripen into your first retreat or even in the next bigger one.
I think there are two aspects to that. Maybe I can speak to one of them and Sarahni can speak to the other. Preparing for your first retreat or any retreat requires several things. First of all, you need to set a date. And I was taught very early on, set a date, and that date means you're going into retreat, unless your mom or your dad dies or something really drastic. But my father passed away while we were at Diamond Mountain, and I had made a commitment to be at each of those classes, and I did not go to his service. That's the commitment. So you make a commitment, you stick with it. Once you've made that commitment, then you start to think about what you need to do to tidy up your life. For instance, you have bills, you're single, you have bills that need to be paid. You don't want to go into retreat and think, oh my God, I forgot to pay the bill. So you make a list of the things that need to be done while you're in retreat and make sure they get done. Then, most importantly, after the time, picking the date is the subject. You don't want to go in with something you've never heard about, because chances are you're going to have more questions than answers. So learn as much as you can about the subjects you want to do retreat on. Take the material you need in with you, so that when you get into retreat, you're not thinking about asking for things to be sent in. And I guess, dear, you can talk about the setting up the karmic seeds for getting into retreat.
Right, right. But part of your worldly setup is also where to do retreat, finding a place. And for a one-day retreat, you can do that in your own home, which would mean negotiating with family members, right? Or if you're going to do say a weekend retreat, finding someplace that isn't so far away that you spend your whole time traveling, but is different or isolated enough that you won't be tempted to go out and check out the neighborhood. And it does not have to be at a retreat center formally. It can be a neighbor's house, right? If the neighbor's gone. For open teaching retreats, just about any place that you feel safe and comfortable can be suitable. as retreats get longer, of course, it takes, some more formality to find a suitable place. It is nice if one uses a retreat space that's been used for retreat or has, holy, sacred things done. So having a retreat center nearby and taking advantage of it does have its benefits karmically as well. So just like going on vacation, which we do for pleasure, it takes all kinds of planning to have your needs all met. Going into retreat takes similar kind of planning. And to have all of those ducks in a row before you go in will allow you to step into that retreat and let go of any other needs. And so how you get your meals taken care of, etc., that just takes a little bit of experimenting. Do you want to cook for yourself? If so, do you want to freeze all your meals and just be able to reheat them? Or do you want to arrange for somebody to leave a meal a day at your doorstep? You don't know what will work for you until you try different ways, which is the beauty of a weekend or 5-day retreat, is you can experiment in a few days with greater ease than committing yourself to 2 weeks and finding you hate beans, but that's all you're eating.
Actually, I've got an interesting story about that. My first lay run retreat, tantric retreat, I was honored to be able to do it in Geshe Michael and Lama Christie's yurt, and I had several people supporting me. They were bringing meals to me. Well, one day they didn't, and the next day they didn't, and the next day they still hadn't. And meanwhile, I'm eating instant oatmeal, which was my breakfast. I don't like instant oatmeal to this day because I had 9 meals of instant oatmeal. So the point of the story is, 1, make sure you have a reliable caregiver, and 2, make sure that the meals that you figured out are such that you'll still be interested in eating them if that's all you eat for 3 or 4 days. But I think from our success, even when we did longer retreats in the house at Diamond Mountain, I can remember taking a meal and sliding it on a tray to my wife, and she'd finish it and send it back out. It gave me a chance to serve someone in doing a retreat, which is a high karmic seed planting technique, and I knew it gave her the opportunity to focus more on her retreat practice rather than worrying about the food. Right. So we talked just really briefly. We mentioned how to set the seeds to get into a retreat. That really requires picking a high karmic object in your life, your wife, your significant other, your children, your parents, and serving them in whatever way you can. That's the kind of seed planting that will allow you to have that kind of service when you need it.
Right. Seed planting for retreat is a whole different thing than the worldly planting. And, the obvious seed planting would be support somebody who's in retreat. Well, there's nobody in retreat around me. I don't have that opportunity. And so how do we come outside the onion skin to find ways to plant seeds for retreat in a arena where we don't have somebody in 3-year retreat to take care of. So we think about, what does retreat mean to me? It means this opportunity to step back from my worldly obligations and activities to focus on my spiritual path, which is so important to me in order to benefit others. If we look at that, it's like I need the people around me to at least respect my need, my wish and my need, to be supportive of my wish and my need, maybe even to be eager for me to go on retreat. And how do we plant the seeds for those around us to be supportive and respectful and like eager to help us get something that we want to do? We be supportive of them, respectful of them. Well, they don't want to go on retreat. No, they want to go roller skating. Okay, let me help you go roller skating safely, right? Enjoyably, because I want support going on retreat. Do you see, it doesn't have to be apple for apple. Support.
I think
respect.
that's really important, and something that we tend to not think about, because we can't find someone who's going into retreat. So what do I do? Well, exactly what my lovely wife is saying. Support another person in what they want to do with enthusiasm, so that when you say to your spouse, I'd like to take that week of vacation time I have coming up, I'd really like to do a retreat. And the response of your significant other will be, hopefully, wow, great. I'd be happy to help you with what you want to do, because you've been helping me do what I want to do. It's that subtle.
Right. Planting the seeds. So again, it's like my own tendency was, well, okay, I want to do retreat in August, like we actually are in August. And so, in March, I start thinking, how can I plant the seeds for my August retreat? And then suppose August comes along and something happens and I can't actually get into retreat. Like my tendency would be to say, oh, I didn't do my seeds right. I do it right. The system doesn't work. But my mistake was that I already had my goal in concrete, right? The goal that I wanted, I thought was already in concrete. And my seed planting in March didn't give me enough time. When we're starting to think, I think I'd like to do retreat sometime in the future. So I'm going to start thinking of how I can interact with my important people in my life in such a way that when it's time for retreat, they will be supportive, respectful, eager, helpful, blah. So we start now, right? Adding, in order to be able to do retreat, to our dedication. So that when it's time and when you're inspired, the likelihood of the seeds ripening and ability to get in and do retreat will be ready for us.
Now, we're taught that you do a karmic deed and it will ripen this lifetime, maybe, next lifetime, probably, sometime in the future, most likely. But to have it happen in this lifetime takes doing it towards a high karmic object. Well, I don't know about you, but I have a lot of angels in my life that are high karmic objects to me. And I make sure to do the things that are necessary for them to get what they need. You don't know, in many cases, who a high karmic object is. You think of your children, well, they're my kids. High karmic object, very high karmic object. Spouse, boss, friends. So you can do the things that you can to help them get what they need. And sure enough, those seeds can ripen, will ripen in the near term, and you'll get to do the retreat you want to do.
Then, of course, the completion factor is the rejoicing, right? Coffee meditation about things that we have done to support those who are in retreat in some kind of focused practice where they're wanting to grow their spiritual life. So my guess is, you know, all of us have some place where we've helped somebody, you know, I don't know, do their prayers. Like, have we tithed to church? Have we helped a nun or a monk? Have we, right? We can find seeds from even long ago that we can add to our rejoiceables list to say, wow, I have supported retreat. Right? Have you done a group teaching? You know, any kind of get together as a group where everybody's there to learn something new, where you helped people learn that new thing. I'll bet we have seeds even from being in school that would qualify as rejoiceables when we direct it towards getting into a situation where we can get deeper into our understanding of ourselves. Anyone you've helped learn something new is a rejoiceable that we can direct towards practices that will help us come to understand something new about ourselves.
Well, I have an example I think is maybe worth sharing. I have a great interest in writing articles about various weapon systems. And that's about the farthest thing from my lovely wife's mind that you can think of. We can't think of anything further. Mars is much closer than that. And so she could fight that and wonder why I'm doing it, or she could do what she does so beautifully and supports my joy in doing that. And in return, because I know where karma comes from, how karma works, I support her joy in doing what she does. And between the two of us, we're generating the seeds necessary to do our retreat in August in a beautiful setting and have potentially wonderful success. So something is seemingly mundane and out of context, helping me do what I like to do, which isn't related to Buddhism in the strict sense, is very powerful for her. And my helping her with all that she does around our community, supporting her, going with her to various functions, joyfully, not, oh, okay, I'll go. Those are the kind of things you need to do to set the seeds necessary to get into your retreat in a finite amount of time.
At the beginning, you said something very beautifully, that you have to set a date and really stick to the commitment. And I think since we have many people who have never done a retreat yet, it's a beautiful thing also to support others, to stick to their commitments, to really make commitments and really get this strong resolution to really do it. So whenever you can support others, not breaking already existing commitments, but rather going for what they decided already, it could help also for the retreat.
Yes, very nice.
And I have another question also, since our tradition when we go in a group retreat with a teacher, as we will do in November with the Heart Sutra, there we will have a very special setting, which comes from our lineage. Maybe you can tell also about this setting. And my biggest, the challenge that I faced at the beginning was, well, I do my daily kind of sitting. I don't want to call it meditation. And then I go there and I have 4 hours a day meditating, sitting still. That also needs some kind of preparation, also seat-wise, to be able to focus and really be quiet and sit. So maybe you can go into also this traditional setting if we are doing a group retreat with teacher's guidance.
These Asian Classics Institute practice modules, they are designed as part teaching, part guided meditation, where we learn the full practice piece by piece until by the end, we have the whole thing. And so those, classes are generally 2 hours, an hour of teaching and an hour of the guided meditation. And to learn that practice module in a long weekend takes 2 and 3 and sometimes 4 classes a day. So, right, you're there, you're engaged. It can be torture or it can be bliss, and anywhere in between. And in our tradition, the teachers are not strict about sitting in lotus for the 2-hour class. You can shift and wiggle. I remember we did a group, actually Diamond Way retreat, our first one. And there were maybe 30 people there. And most of them had done that retreat many times before. And Sumati and I were complete newbies. Plus, most of them didn't speak English and we did not speak their language. So we felt really, really isolated. And I had this migraine and I had fibromyalgia, my body was hurting all the time and tired. And I could not stay upright the first 2 days of that 10-day program. I had to go in the kitchen and lay down. And fortunately, right, this precious Lama, he just smiled at me. He didn't say, "Get out, you're not doing it right." And then this retreat was prayers. Fortunately, we got to say them in English. Prayers and then mantra recitation, like a long session of mantra recitation.
A lot.
And we didn't know the mantra, we were just learning it. And we were sitting there, and again, the first 3 or 4 days was just torture. And the Lama said to us, "You guys, you need remedial mantra session. You stay over lunch and do an extra hour of mantra because you're so far behind." And it's like, "Yes, Lama." And then by halfway through that retreat, I was sitting in one of these torturous sessions doing mantra, and something shifted in my heart. And it was like all of a sudden, it felt like this is the most important thing I could do with my life ever, is to do mantra and visualize. And I felt like I was changing my world in the moment by doing so. And I was hooked on retreat. After the first 4 days of torture. It just shifted.
And very importantly, from a group retreat standpoint, all of the other students were very helpful.
Yeah.
One gave us each counters, the digital counters for counting our mantras, keeping track of our mantras.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful example of how group retreat can help the newbies.
Right.
And I've been sensitive to that ever since. And if I'm in a group retreat, I make sure to keep my eyes out for those that might be struggling and give them encouragement.
Right. Right. Yeah, sweet.
Oh, so beautiful, so valuable. I would like to invite our participants also, if you have any questions to retreat, how to start, whatever, if we have talked about or not yet. So please put your questions in the chat, or you can also raise your hands. And then we can see you and you can ask directly if you like. So if there's anything our teachers can help you with, this is a good chance. Let's see. So while they are thinking, you can still also go on, but there's one question already. Are there any benefits of retreat in the business setting? Beautiful question.
Mm-hmm. So Geshe Michael always said that when he would come out of one of his solitary retreats, one of the benefits was that he would have come up with all of these out-of-the-box ideas for ways to direct the diamond business in a different way. So although his intention in going into retreat was to do his spiritual retreats, his whole business life was his spiritual life, as we now know, that there was this connection. If one, is not on the spiritual path here and is choosing to do retreat as a business retreat, one would still want to have some kind of method of analyzing, evaluating, coming to a new conclusion about what a solution could be. And so in that arena, I would have to defer to those who have taken the DCI training or et cetera about the method of using retreat for a business setting outcome. And yes, it would be very effective. In retreat, you can get a broader perspective if you go into that retreat with that intention to get a broader perspective. It wouldn't be beneficial to go into a business retreat and spend your time thinking about how, how does it go? The demand and what is that I'm trying to say? Product and demand,
Supply
right?
and demand.
Right, supply and demand. How I need to change that, how I need to work with that better. But rather go in with the idea of mental seeds. What mental seeds do I need to ripen? What mental seeds do I need to plant in order to see the outcome that I want to see? So it might be a kind of retreat where you clarify your vision of what you want to see, and then use your retreat to work on what seeds need to be planted to ripen this. What seeds need to be planted to ripen that? How do I help the other people in my business plant the seeds so that we all can see this outcome, right? It would be a planning retreat, a seed planting planning retreat for the business outcome that we'd like to create. And coming out of that retreat, you would dedicate your efforts to this picture or something better, right? Because you don't want to limit yourself to only the vision that you had, because maybe what you made in your retreat's going to look better than that, different than that, bigger than that.
And you referred earlier on already to the Circle Day. And I think this is a part of what Geshe Michael gave us as an idea to introduce retreat on a constant basis into our life. And he described intensely how vast the innovation power for the business became by doing regular 1 day off sessions.
Right.
And if this is working already so powerfully, I think going really for 4 weeks, which his boss didn't approve of neither,
Right.
and most of our bosses won't.
Right.
But I think this is also part of that.
Right.
Nice.
Well, I think it's easy to think, what can I possibly do in a day?
Yeah.
But if you can train yourself to do in the day, to achieve something in that 1 day, then you're setting the seeds to achieve something in a week or 10 days or 4 weeks. There's nothing worse than going into a 4 or 5 week retreat and realize you're not prepared. And this is going to end up being a waste of time.
Mm.
But you only know how to make it fruitful if you've done the shorter retreats.
Mm. In regard of the preparation, there was another question in the chat already asking, I thought that there's no documents allowed into retreat. Wouldn't it distract me? So I think there's a difference between just taking whatever and taking the practice documents. Maybe you want to answer that question too.
Well, there are different traditions and styles of retreat. If I'm going to be doing a retreat on White Tara, I would take my compendium of advices. I would take my sadhana. I would take several of the books I know or I enjoy reviewing the Tara teachings from. But in that sense, you can certainly take documents in. I tried once in retreat to take in some novels when I couldn't focus, and that was a mistake because I would get my practice and I'd go, okay, time to read a novel. And that wasn't the idea of the retreat. Having said that, if you're prone to get something that's called lung, and you get into these states where you just can't get your practice going, then having something like a novel to read is reasonable, but it depends mainly on your self-control. If you know having a novel is going to distract you, don't take a novel in.
So it's all about the focus on the practice, and everything that can help us doing our practice during retreat is part of the retreat, and everything that is kind of worldly, let's say, can be a distraction, but can also be a kind of cure in case we have the side effects. Okay. There's one question asking for if we are doing a group retreat, but we are taking it online. And Geshe Michael is offering lots of programs like the Medicine Buddha retreat, for example. So we have those classes and the study sessions, and then we are advised to do the silent part. The question is how can we take most out of this experience when we are attending online?
So, excuse me, the greatest benefit of an online program like that would be if one put oneself into as if you were in retreat and did only the program and nothing else. So it would be as if you were there, but you sit in front of your computer to do the formal sessions and then do the practice sessions on your own. So, you know, there were some people who were doing home retreat in that way, or groups that had gathered and were doing the program online, but as retreat. And then, you know, all the way down to the way I admittedly take them is I sign up, I show up for Geshe Michael's classes. You know, I take notes so that I can study and review and share it someday with somebody else, but I don't do all the other stuff. Right? So the ideal would be take the 10 days off work, focus, study the material you just learned, contemplate it, meditate it, do your yoga if you're a yoga, take your rest, come back to the next class that's being offered by the, you know, group there. And then in those 3 days, you take the practice and you do it again and again. And so you can approximate being a being there, retreat for the highest benefit. But it's fine to take the class otherwise.
Okay.
Not intentionally ignoring.
No.
Are we not getting Russian questions?
I saw only why do people do retreat, but I think you answered that very vastly. How to seclude and why, and for the higher benefit.
Yeah.
So, and the next one, I don't actually see any other, the next one in my chat at least. Could you please still give some more advice of a circle retreat at home for preparating of longer retreats that come later, and how to organize your day when you're doing retreat at home, like every Wednesday, and then what to do on this long Wednesday?
Okay. Traditionally, a lay person in this tradition on what we're calling a circle day would determine that for this 24-hour period, I am going to live like a monastic, a traditional monastic. And you get up before the sun rises and you take your 24-hour Mahayana vows, and then you do your daily practice, which would be your meditation preliminaries, followed by your various prayers that you've gathered together that inspire you. Source of all my good, maybe 1,000 angels of bliss, maybe Heart Sutra, maybe. And you've already chosen what topic of the Lamrim you want to focus on for that day. And so you would do your meditation based on the Lama, perhaps, and meditate about the Lama and the true nature of the Lama and my experience with the Lama, right? The whole session on the Lama. And maybe that whole session takes an hour or an hour and a half. And then you dedicate and you go back to bed, maybe. And then a couple hours later, you get up. You don't have to retake your vows, but you do your session again. Your meditation will go deeper this time. Your prayers will have a little different meaning. You know, you spend an hour maybe, and then stop, and then have lunch. Take a rest, do it again. Take a rest. Do it again. Take a rest. Do you see? You're focused on your prayers, on your meditation. And then you go to bed whenever you go to bed. When the sun comes up, when you can see the palm of your hand, those 24-hour vows are done. And you can go back to your daily life. So if we don't have that kind of formal interest, formal background, you would want to develop for yourself some sense of sacredness for that day. And you don't have to get up before dawn, but you say, I'm going to get up at 7 o'clock, in the morning. I'm going to meditate carefully. And then I'll do some exercise inside my room, and I'll have my meal all taken care of. So I'm done by noon. And I'm going to do that meditation again and again. So maybe it's about, where did that angry, yelling boss come from? Again and again and again. Or maybe it's about, where did my amazing, wonderful husband come from? Because I want to perpetuate him. Yeah, again and again and again. And on your last session, you dedicate it all carefully to ability to do another circle day, to ability to make more, wonderful special husbands.
Mm-hmm.
Dedicate to future retreat. Okay?
And rejoice.
And rejoice, right? And rejoice. Good.
And maybe last question that really follows nicely to what you just explained. Someone was asking if you ever feel bored. I mean, if you do it one day in a week, it might help you getting a little bit deeper. And the boring effect, or I didn't hear it from you that you got bored, but within the 3-year retreat or even 14 days or a month retreat, and you do over and over the same thing. How about boredom?
Yeah, if we have a tendency to boredom is gonna happen. And
Well, it's like the obstacles in meditation. If you're
Right.
when you get bored, stop and think just how incredibly fortunate you are to be in retreat and to have the training and to have the time and to have the support. And because of all that, I owe it to the people that made this possible to do the best I can.
Yeah.
So stop being bored, get a grip, put on your big boy pants, and get back to your job.
Yeah.
So everybody who really wants to try, are we getting bored? How is it to be in a retreat with a group, with teachers? We are going to have a retreat with Lama Sarahni and Venerable Sumati this November in Barcelona, Spain. And all of what you have heard today, we try to consider when planning, and you can test if you feel ready and want to make the commitment. We would be happy to have you joining us. So we will be staying in a small monastery, which is only there for us at this time. And then we will have the topic of the Heart Sutra. And I will also share the slide again where you can find more information and the registration code. But for now, I want to thank Lama Sarahni and Venerable Sumati for taking the time. We will have a repetition of this talk. So at September 1st, we will have with the Diamantklub another one of these sessions. And you can come here and ask all the questions. You see, we have very experienced practitioners and teachers with us. It's a blessing. So thank you for sharing your time. And let me share with you first the Heart Sutra information, so that you can, if you like, take a picture of the registration code. We made a discount for all the people joining today. So if you're interested in and you're making a commitment, if you register until the 20th of June, you will get what we had also as an early bird. And from that on, we have the normal pricing. It will be from the 31st to 10th of November. And you have the option to come only for the teaching of the practice module for the Heart Sutra. Or else you can join us for the whole experience. So we will have 7 days of silent retreat with 4 sessions a day in a group, guided meditations with our teachers. And it will be in English. And for all of you, there's, I think, at least one contact person you can ask also, who might be known to you. So please reach out to us. And we also have a Telegram group where you find always ongoing current information on the event. Okay. And then I think Luisa also has something to share before we end today. Luisa?
Yes,
Ah.
yes, sorry. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks a lot for the time and the teachings. I am representing the Diamantklub. This is the organization or the club or the organization who is hosting this event. We are a volunteer organization that supports the preservation and digitization of ancient wisdom. And we partner with other clubs in different regions. So our work is volunteering work. I am sharing here some QR codes. If you feel like this teaching gave you some insights and you want to support this work that we keep inviting teachers and people who can help us evolve, then please just scan the code and share with us something so we can keep with this mission. This is the Gold Club for Russian-speaking people, Club de Oro for Spanish-speaking people, and Diamantklub for German-speaking people is Austria, Switzerland, and Germany. I will post in the chat for this the link if you want to just click on the link. So thanks everybody for joining today, and we wish you a beautiful rest of the day or night, wherever you are.
Joanna, also give us in 1 minute. We also have some announcement for the Russian-speaking group. And
Of course.
Okay. Yeah, you can stop sharing. Я буду говорить на русском. I will say in Russian and then translate myself. I mean, don't worry.
Okay.
Добрый вечер всем. Меня зовут Елена Габриэла Аронов. Я являюсь ученицей Ламы Сарахни и Ламы Сумати уже в закрытой группе Diamond Way курсы, где мы изучаем уже тантрические курсы. И, собственно говоря, больше 10 лет я сопровождаю большое количество ретритов со своей партнершей Викторией Макаровой по организации всех мероприятий для русскоговорящего рынка. Yes, hi, my name is Elena Gabriela Aronov, and I'm a student of Lama Sarahni and Lama Sumati on a Diamond Way course, which is already like secret courses. My partner Victoria Makarova and I, we have like a big experience to organize events. And we would like to introduce some program for you, which is also helping to set up your body, to set up your mind. And 10% from that program, we put in towards that event in November for the Heart Sutra. Мы хотим представить вашему вниманию программу, которая называется «Феникс», и эта программа называется именем дорогой Ламы Сарахни. В этой программе мы занимаемся тем, что мы приводим к балансу состояния тела, ума, психосоматики и энергии. Провожу я эти программы уже более 3 лет, и эти программы помогают вам сорганизоваться и прийти к ретриту. Также 10% от стоимости этих программ, они недорогие, мы отправляем в поддержку всех мероприятий Ламы Сарахни, Ламы Сумати. Basically, we would like to invite you to stay with us, and you see my contact on a sharing list. It says Lena Aronov. You can find me in Telegram group, and we will work with you during the summertime, and we'll help you to get more understanding before September 1st. And then at September 1st, you will have next catch. То есть мы с вами можем работать в течение лета, и к 1 сентября вы можете дальше получить следующий элемент в группах по пониманию, как подготавливаться к ретриту и как проходить ретрит. И the best word we have to say is that Holy Lama Sarahni and Holy Lama Sumati has absolutely tied that schedule. And that schedule is teaching us how to be a student who know what the motivation is. Lama Sarahni and Lama Sumati имеют довольно сложный и плотный график работы, но они нас научили только одному самому главному — это понимать, зачем мы это делаем, в чем наша мотивация. И вот в течение лета мы хотим вам передать эти знания вместе с Викторией Макаров. Поэтому, пожалуйста, оставайтесь в русской группе с нами на связи, и мы обязательно поможем. Thank you so much, Joanna. Thank you so much, Holy Lamas. We will support this event.
Thank you so much. I'm always impressed how fast you can speak in both languages. Thank you, everybody.
Translators. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you, tech team. Thank you, everyone, for being here, for the opportunity.
Thank you, everyone.
It's been a really
Powerful
pleasure.
karmic seeds all the way around.
Yes.
Thank you, dear teachers, for your time. Have a lovely day. Everybody else, also enjoy your day, your evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining us today. And thank you also, Gabby, for all the information and the support. And thanks to everyone here. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you, translators. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay.
They want to do
No.
a debrief.
You want to do a debrief?
Just 1 second. Let's
Mhm.
if everybody not belonging to the technical team, the event is over, you could leave.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining.
Okay.
Guys, I'm sorry, I have a work meeting.
You
That's
can
just
go.
now
It's
in
okay.
1 minute. Mwah.
Thank you,
Mm,
Flavia.
Thank you, Flavia.
Thank you, teachers.
Thank you, Flavia. See you later.
See you later.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for the teaching and for the support. I want to apologize because I underestimated the participants, and it blew, so many people couldn't join, and I was